Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WABAN, the movie and TV show podcast where an expert on the subject discusses things with the average viewer. I'm your host, Nim, and today I am joined by Hawk Girl.
She doesn't have any catchphrases or anything like that.
Just act like overly aggressive or something. I don't know.
Do you got a problem with me? Is that what you want?
Sure. I figured I'd go with her because she becomes very important in this half of the season, especially the end.
They kind of avoid giving much information about her up till the very end, and then they spurge all of it.
Yeah. So we'll get into that when we get into the final episodes of the season, which is technically the final episodes of the show in general, I guess. Because technically Unlimited is technically a separate show, but it's a continuation. So we talked about the first 14 episodes of the season two weeks ago. So we're going to talk about the last 12 episodes. The reason why we split it up to 14 to 12 and 12 instead of 13 and 13 is because the end of a two-part episode was episode 14, so we didn't want to split that up, obviously. So starting off, we're going to talk about episode 15 and 16, which is titled The Terror Beyond. And this is the one that has Dr. Fate, Aquaman, Grundy.
Right.
Yeah.
The one that's very Eldritch Horror-esque.
Yeah. Which I actually like a lot of those aspects of it. So I think the first episode of these two was a little bit weaker, mostly just because it was very annoying, I guess, to watch and be
yeah, they weren't
come on, don't do the shoot first, ask questions later kind of thing. Get the info, figure out what's going on before you just fight. It was just so annoying to me. I was no, ask them what's going on first, because the entire episode is the Justice League being oh, they're definitely doing some shady shit, we're gonna stop it, and then they find out that they were doing a spell to protect the world. Right,
it could all be avoided if they're both both sides were just hey, this is what we're doing, we need help.
Oh, you're oh, okay. And then they seem to have a pretty strong distrust in Aquaman, surprisingly, from, because they were friends before. I mean, I know they didn't maybe get along with Aquaman the best before, but still they were I don't know, it was just kind of annoying to watch, because okay, the fights were kind of cool, I guess, because it was Hawkgirl was fighting Dr. Fate, and Aquaman was fighting Wonder Woman, and who else was in this episode? It was Grundy and
Superman was.
Yes, Superman was fighting Grundy. That's right. It was those three, because it was only those three in the episode of the main.
I did also they expand on Grundy's character a lot, which was interesting.
Yeah, see, that was probably one of the best parts of the episode, actually. Yeah. First off, we got his backstory, which his backstory scene was actually really good, I thought. It was really cool how they animated it and stuff. The scene where he gets shot by the guys, there was something obviously they couldn't show him getting riddled with bullets. So I forget exactly how they do it, but I remember it being it's kind of a dark noir type of. It almost feels like a dark old film noir type of style. It was cool.
And they cut away from his body as he was getting shot and just showed the shadow of it.
Yeah. It was just cool. I just really liked it. I thought it was very effective. And it's by the end of it, Grundy dies, which I forgot that happened. And it took me by surprise. And he kind of has a redemption here. He's not, he kind of has a little, I don't know. It's interesting.
Right. Effort, in the very beginning of these episodes, he's just in it for the money, for the gold. And then Fate brings out his backstory, his origins, and
right, that he doesn't remember. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he does start to remember, and he decides, like, no, I want my soul back, and, I'll help you do this if this gets me my soul back.
Yeah.
And it just has this progression of him really no longer being a villain for these last, like, day of his life.
Yeah, and, like, he actually bonds with Hawkgirl pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, to the point where she's in tears when he dies. Like, that's crazy. Like, it's weird that, like, one of the, like, kind of main villains of the show, because, like, the show has their, like, list of villains that just kind of pop up every now and again, right?
Right.
For, like, villain team-ups and stuff like that. One of those characters dies, and one of the Justice League members is crying over it. Like, that's the fact that they were able to do that is very interesting to me. Because it's like you wouldn't expect that to happen, and it's right. Very, and it was actually done, I think, pretty well. Because I mean, up to this point, like, I mean, obviously we don't really know much about Grundy in the show. I mean, unless you know the comics, he's just kind of a big dumb brute, that mm-hmm. He's that type of character, like kind of like a Hulk type of character, basically.
Right.
But without the Bruce Banner side, it's
exactly,
like just the
that's
Hulk.
What I was gonna say. Like, he can't turn it off and get smart again. Like, no, he's just stupid.
But yeah, it turns out he's actually like a big kind of zombie thing.
Yeah, what was it? They cursed him a bunch. Like, they cursed his corpse after they killed him and threw him in, like, a swamp with mystical properties.
Yeah.
A few decades later, just crawls back out.
Yep. Born on a Monday. That's like a thing. That's like the thing in the comics with Grundy. It's like born on a Monday is like a big thing, which is why on his gravestone at the end it said born on a Monday.
I'm confused. What? Why?
I don't know the full context of that from the comics, but I do know that it's a thing. It's like I don't know, like the I don't remember the meaning behind it or the significance of it, but it's like born on a Monday is a thing from a comics. And I noticed, I don't know if you remember, it was on his gravestone.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, no, overall, I think that was pretty good. And it was cool mm-hmm. to see, I guess it was cool to see Dr. Fate for the first time, because he's like the big mystical kind of character in this universe.
It's like the parallel to Doctor Strange from Marvel.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Doctor Strange of DC, kind of, yeah. And to see, I don't know. It was just like to have magic kind of introduced more.
Yeah.
I mean, not that there's never been magic in the show, but I feel like
never this heavily.
Yeah. So
I also like the moment where Superman gets injured and he's just like, only magic could hurt me this much. I'm just like, oh, okay.
Or kryptonite.
Yeah, like that wouldn't do, like, I assume that would do it, obviously, but
yeah,
I guess magic is also something that he's not particularly strong against, at least.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was cool that they had Wonder Woman and Aquaman fight each other, because they're both kind of similar characters in the sense of, like, they're both like royalty from their own respective, like, fictional mm-hmm. parts of the world. Like, hers is obviously Themyscira and his is
Atlantis.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah, that's the easy one to remember. What are you talking about?
Yeah. The one under the water. What's that? Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot more to say about those ones, but I liked them.
The big monster was pretty interesting, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, that was. I actually really liked that. That was really cool. Visual.
Grunting, like just crawling inside of him and beating up all the little guys.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. That was all really good. Yeah, I really liked that. But yeah, no. Overall, it's pretty good. I think the second episode is definitely the strong one of the two, because I think the first one was just kind of annoying to me, because I was like, can we just figure out what's going on already? Like,
this is a fabricated problem just for the story to elongate it.
Right. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. It feels like something that was almost like they wanted to make it 2 episodes, and they're like, how do we stretch this out for 2 episodes? Well, yeah, it did kind of feel a little bit like that, but
right.
But overall, it was still enjoyable. I mean, the fights were, enjoyable enough, I guess. Even if it was a little contrived for the fights to happen, but next up is episode 17 and 18, which is Secret Society, which is essentially, I guess the Secret Society is kind of like the next version of the Injustice League,
right? But
led by Grodd instead of being led by Lex Luthor. It's all different characters except for Shade. Shade was in and then like they have different villains. So you have, but the difference this time is none of them are motivated by money. So that was the thing, because it's Killer Frost.
Just like killing people.
Right. Giganta, who's probably your favorite.
You know me so well.
And why can't I remember the other ones? It was like, there was the Death guy, the guy who like drained life out of you or whatever the heck he did.
Yeah, the toy thing. I don't remember his name. He was a toy puppet looking guy, and he just built like toy machines. And
Clayface, that's right.
Yeah, Clayface.
There were some references to Clayface's backstory a little bit when he said something about how he used to be an actor.
Oh yeah.
So that's if you watch Batman the Animated Series, you actually get an episode about his origin. I never watched that episode, but like I did know that like some stuff about it, so I knew that like he was an actor, and
so, I thought I recognized him, but I just he's not prominent enough for me to actually remember him.
Yeah, no, he's a Batman villain. But I think one thing that made these episodes stand out above the like Injustice episodes, Injustice for All, and like those types of episodes, was the idea, like the whole thing of them like tearing the Justice League apart.
Yeah,
that kind of added another layer to it.
It wasn't just them forming their own group and fighting, now on like a team versus team thing. It was them prying the other team apart from the inside out, like just sowing discord.
Well, right, because like Gorilla Grodd's like, we have divided, now it's time to conquer. So it's... you kind of figure Grodd is going to come back eventually, and here it is. So, I don't know if I still like even these ones. I don't know if I have a lot to say about them. Like they're, I feel
the ending was interesting. I found. Like the very, very end when they had already like beaten this new team. I think it was Green Lantern who, they're all like talking about like what they said to each other, and Flash's like, yeah, it was just the mind waves from Grodd.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And they're like, no, it wasn't. We meant every word. And
right.
Green Lantern just goes, we can just apologize and move on.
And then it ends. So, yeah.
Yeah. I found that interesting because of like, they did mean what they said.
Right.
And
it was
and he's kind of right.
Grodd's-
There is no way to take it back, but
Well, right, because Grodd's thing didn't make them hate each other. All it did was make them more likely to say the things that they've never said, like the negative thoughts they have on each other, you know?
right.
Yeah.
It was just very interesting because normally in a kid show, it's like, yeah, there's some way to fix this or make up. But no, they just ended with like, yeah, sorry. Moving on.
Yeah, we have our differences. I guess we'll just have to deal with that.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was interesting, like Superman's whole thing, because he was like, he's always like, I can handle this on my own. I can handle. He's like back. What I was like, I've taken out entire armies. It's like, but now I have to worry about all these people.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, Superman.
Or every punch that he takes is one that they don't have to.
That's right.
He's like, the invulnerable one.
Yeah, that's right. You know, so yeah, I think it brought up a lot of interesting things just with the general relationship between the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was definitely adds to the show, because you know that was kind of the thing in season 1 that was lacking a little bit. I think is just getting to know the characters as people and their relationships with each other. You know,
right.
Not that they didn't explore that at all in the first season, but this one definitely does a lot more with that. I don't know if I have much more to say.
I'm all good over here, at least.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is episode 19 and 20, Hereafter. And this one is the one where Superman dies but doesn't really die.
Oh, right. I actually really like these two.
Yeah, no. It's each episode is very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the first one is Superman like dies, you know, quotation marks, right? Superman quote dies, and it's sort of just showing everyone dealing with his death. That's the episode, right? You know, Batman doesn't trust it, of course, because he's Batman. He's always like looking into the details that nobody else notices.
Right. It was interesting the way that he reacted because he was just like, "Why would I go to a funeral? He's not dead."
Yeah, he just accepts that he's not. But then at one point he does go to his grave and has something to say, and I actually really like that scene. He's like,
yeah.
He says, you know, despite our differences, he's like, I always had nothing but respect for you, and it's this whole thing, and it was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think the relationship between those two characters in particular is very interesting, because it's like, again, I think it's like they don't necessarily always see eye to eye. They don't agree on a lot of things, but they also are like very much trust each other and have respect for each other at the same time. It's kind of like this interesting thing, I think.
Yeah, they have a unique duality to them because they both want the same end goal, but their means of getting there are next to polar opposites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess the only exception would be like the no-kill rule that they both have.
Yeah. The Superman throws out the window if it's dark side, but you know. No, I really like that. And then Lobo shows up. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you've ever heard of that character from the comics, but he was the bounty hunter guy that's like, I'm going to join your team.
Oh, I forgot that was his name. However, I have seen him in other things, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like, It was funny because it's like they didn't have to add that to the episode.
Not at all.
But it did add some nice comedy. It was a little ridiculous. Well, because he just shows up at the watchtower, flies right in on his space motorcycle thing.
Just crashes in and says, "I'm a member of the Justice League now. Nobody's gonna argue."
How does he just somehow somewhere in space found out that Superman died and was just like, I'm gonna go join the Justice League? What? How did this? It's so ridiculous. Yeah.
But then the other episode where you actually get to see what's going on with Superman this entire time. He's just wild manning it.
Really cool, because it's like for most of the episode until he meets Vandal Savage, you don't actually know what's going on. But obviously, it turns out that he's 1,000 years in the future, however long. I forget exactly what it was, but
the whole time it was really interesting because he's acting like he's on another planet, so you just assume that's the truth.
Yeah.
But he's following a radio signal that is leading him to somewhere on planet that he assumes is the rest of the Justice League that was also teleported with him.
But it just leads him to the Watchtower, which is still intact. Yeah.
But before you even know that it's the Watchtower, you're just like, what could it possibly be? They didn't get teleported. We already know that. Yeah.
It definitely sets up an interesting mystery. I already knew because I remember this from when I've watched it before.
Right.
Because this was a very memorable episode.
I can imagine so.
Yeah. But I think it definitely has a similar, I would say if you had a comparison to the idea of you'd think it's another planet for most of it seems like another planet and then you find out it's really Earth many years in the future. A similar classic movie would be that would be similar to that kind of idea is Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
So it was kind of giving me that kind of vibe where it's at the end of the movie he finds out it was Earth all along. But yeah, I also really like Vandal Savage's inclusion.
Yeah, that was interesting.
At first it seems to come out of nowhere. You're like, oh, of all the characters, but then you're like, wait, it makes sense because if all of humanity is dead, he's going to be the only one still alive, obviously, because he can't die. So, it's the most logical character to having that. And it's kind of cool to see him in a non-antagonistic state of just not being a bad person. Because he's had 1,000 years to reflect on who he used to be and realize that it was a mistake. So he's basically a different person, because he's just had so much more experience.
It makes complete sense because he lives for that long. He outlives the world that he destroyed. And then he realizes once everything's gone, they're like, oh, suddenly I have nothing to do because I destroyed everything.
Well, and it was interesting too. Another interesting thing is he made a spaceship to be able to leave and go find other civilizations. And Superman's like, why haven't you done it? And he's like, I deserve to be punished for what I did. And I was like, oh, so he's punishing himself for what he did. That he's he could leave if he wanted to. That was insane to me. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
It's just such a thing of this character who you first introduced as a Nazi war criminal is now severely reformed. It
seems weird, but it also makes sense because it's oh yeah, he destroys the world. He's living alone for 1,000 years, or I think it was 1,000. He said, I don't remember.
It was quite a while.
Yeah, and it's That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another thing I really liked about this episode too was sort of seeing what Superman is like without his powers.
Yeah, and he's still a badass.
He gets the red sun. So basically, if Superman is on a planet with a red sun, it neutralizes his powers, right?
You're right.
So, yeah, you're right. He's still a badass. He's super resourceful, and he's just freaking like he killed the top dog of that wolf pack and made a cape out of its fur, red fur. Like that. Like, damn, that is not the Superman I would like. I wouldn't like. It's not something I would expect from Superman, but it's great.
Forged a sword in the middle of the wilds.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool stuff. Like he's just super resourceful. He's just like, all right, well, I who have no clue where I am, no superpowers. Guess I'm just gonna survive and try to find where this thing is leading me. I'm gonna do the best I can,
Like, he's like radio logging what's happening to him, and he says like, "Oh, it has a red sun. I'm a planet with a red sun, so I don't have my powers."
Well, yeah, because he's saying it in case there's any chance that the other members of the Justice League can hear him, and
right. And you're like, oh, that's a problem. He's Superman without his powers. He's just man. What's gonna happen?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not a problem for him. He just goes and gets it done. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like he struggles, but still, I really like this. These episodes are great, I think. Again, they're both kind of one overall story, but they're both very different episodes. It's not like other 2-part episodes in this show where it's like they're kind of one story. Like, obviously, like it is one story, but it's like there's a very clear separation where it's like it is kind of 2 separate stories in a way.
Right. There's 2 things going on.
Right. The first story is Superman dies. How does the world deal with that? How does everyone deal with that? The second story is
How does Superman deal with it?
Superman surviving and then finding out what happened and then, returning.
It was also interesting that when he gets back to the right timeline and, he just goes to foil Vandal Savage, they don't show that at all. It's just like, yeah, we need to do this. Off we go. Come on.
Right, but they show it from Vandal Savage, the future version of Vandal Savage's perspective of things, of the civilization returning. But then he disappears? So I guess, does that mean because he changed the... Oh, wait, probably because that version of himself can't exist.
Right.
So it'll create a newer version of himself of like, what would he be doing if that things had gone differently?
That's probably still evil now, yeah.
But, well, maybe. Who knows?
Probably.
1,000 years can do a lot to a person, but it was just really cool. It's a really cool way to see like a good version of Vandal Savage, like pretty much completely good. Like he has no evil bone left in his body. Like it's weird, but it's also just really interesting.
He was so nonchalant about it too. Like, yep, I murdered the Justice League. I think Green Lantern was right in this spot. Maybe it was over there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, after that many years, you'd be like, yep, that's just what happened. Whatever. Like what,
Yeah, it's ancient history to him.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I always thought it was weird. One thing I thought was interesting was like he's still perfectly able to like communicate in a perfect like normal way. Like I feel
he hasn't gone insane.
Like I feel like going 1,000 years without ever talking to a person, like trying to talk to a person again, I feel like you'd be a little bit like maybe maybe at least like stutter or like something. I don't know. Like just not be as good and as like good at talking anymore, you know? Like
he must have like insane mental fortitude to get through that, and
he does
really not seem any different besides the whole having a toned thing.
I think this is a character in the DC universe that has probably some of the strongest mental fortitude out of any other characters. You know, just the idea of him being able to live that long and still be, you know, sane.
Like no person is designed to live that long. So
I mean, think about how many loved ones he's lost, how many people he's, you know what I mean, like how much death he's seen, probably how much just horrible, you know, like it's so for him to still be this as mentally sane and stable as he is crazy. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about those.
I'm all good on those.
All right. Next up, these are fun episodes, is Wild Cards. So this is the Joker episodes.
Yeah, what was it? They just had the whole Royal Flush gang. Yeah. Yep.
Joker was in charge of the Royal Flush gang, and he set the bomb, and he did a whole TV show out of it. I love how the episode opens with like a TV like executive or whatever, you know, there, and Batman just shows up. He's like, you have to cancel. He's like, did you put whatever was called on the air? And he's like, yeah. He's like, that's the Joker. He's like, no, let's take it off now. And then it starts. It's great. Yeah, I mean, this episode is just classic Joker shenanigans, you know, along with fights with the Royal Flush gang and him being a little abusive to Harley, which again is classic Joker. Like he just freaking
unfortunately,
smacks her onto the ground. Yeah.
Once again, so many people say, yeah, we're like Joker and Harley. Stop. No.
You don't want to be like Joker and Harley. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have a ton to say about these episodes because they're very much just one kind of thing, and it's a cool thing, but it's a really cool, fun idea. I think the Royal Flush Gang was kind of an interesting addition, though, with like the, you know, first off, they're all kind of still young. They're all like kids, like teenagers, basically. And the whole thing of like them being taken away from their families from kids and stuff. So it's like the reason they're following the Joker is because the Joker gave them a better life than what they had before. Which is interesting because it's like the Joker of all people gave them a better life than they had before. Like that's, you know what I mean? It's like, it just kind of shows you how like messed up the government is, I guess, in their whole like
yeah, that's one side of it.
At least in this universe, the DC universe's version of the government.
Well, those kids, they're like terrible crap. Like they were experimented on and everything. And Joker comes on, he's just like, oh, you're useful.
Well, yeah, Joker's obviously clearly using them and doesn't actually care about them, right? Which is, I mean, that's classic Joker, right? Like, he doesn't legitimately care about Harley, but he, you know, pretends like he does, right? He manipulates her that way. You know, and that's what he does with them, essentially, too. And it's, because, I mean, at the end, the one guy realizes, wait a minute, if the bomb goes off, I'm standing right here next to it, I'm gonna blow up too. And it's like, yeah, exactly, Joker doesn't care about that. He's like, oh, if they die, whatever. You know. And then he's like, oh, I'm getting out of here, and he leaves. Like, yeah.
this is only a small part, but I just really loved, who was it? Was it Jack was fighting Superman? He's just like, yeah, I don't need to actually beat you. I just need to stall you until the bomb goes off. He's like, one moment. Uppercuts him into the stratosphere, disarms the bomb.
And then he comes down. All right, where were we? And then he continues to fight him. This season really has been giving Superman some cool moments. Like, it's done really good at that, I think. Which I greatly appreciate.
Oh yeah, that was wonderful. Even Flash had a few good moments in this episode of him, like...
when he grabbed the bomb and, like, threw it out before it blew up. Like, because they're set, like, if you pull them out of their thing, they explode.
Yep. But
he had enough but there was enough time for him to grab it, run it out of the city, and then leave it somewhere, and let it blow up and not even blow him up. And, like... Yeah.
Well, because he tries to do that, like at first, and Joker's like, "Nope, you can't do that. It'll blow up if you do that." So,
and he's like,
Batman like walks him through, disarming it really fast. But then he doesn't have enough time, so he's just like,
"All right, I'll risk it. I'll risk it," and it worked. His risk worked. Yeah.
But I don't know, it's really cool to think about in that split second of the electronics registering that the bomb was moved and like sending the signal for it to explode, and the process of exploding was all a long enough time for Flash to bolt at the city at Mach speed and just get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think another really cool, interesting part of the episode too was closer to the end, with when you figure out about Ace.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's got like weird mind-bending powers, basically. And again, Joker's kind of manipulating her to do what he wants, and she ends up, taking him, going against him at the end. But like the weird visuals when with the mind fuck stuff with her were like crazy. Like Batman's just trying to like walk towards her, and like he just sees like a giant version of her that he's like climbing up, when it's like, basically it's like you're on an extreme acid trip. It's like that's her powers, is giving everybody an extreme acid trip.
And like the Joker just distorting and stretching around him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, and this episode is also where we finally get Hawkgirl and Green Lantern like finally really being together in a relationship.
Oh yeah, because Green Lantern like has his heart stopped, and like she takes a moment to take care of him, get him back up on his feet, or well, at least keep him from dying. And she just so happens to say, I forget exactly what she said, but it's like, "Don't die before I get to tell you this." It's like, "Tell me what?"
I wonder. Awake. Yep, and then that moment at the end, they totally make out, and then yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about the episode. It was fun. I mean, Joker stuff is always fun. Just because, it's just the Joker.
Always very dark undertones with the whole relationship abuse, blowing up parts of a city, using children.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, he's horrible, but as usual, but yeah.
He always just has that good balance, though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's kind of the whole point of his character, is he's doing fucked up shit, but he's like making a joke out of it. He just sees everything as like a big joke. It's all just funny to him and entertaining, Like he just kind of does this kind of stuff because it's fun, not for any other particular motive. Yeah. But next is the only single episode in this show that's not a multiple parter. 23, Comfort and Joy, the Christmas episode. So one thing I will say is I think it's nice that at the end of the last episode before this, Hawkgirl and Green Lantern finally are like together, right? They finally solidify the relationship, and it's nice that they have an episode in between to kind of show them being in a relationship together before the finale, where things just kind of go crazy.
Yeah, they have, him showing her like the joys of winter and Christmas celebrations, with snow angels and the whole big snowball fight that they have, and then
she shows him the joy of beating the shit out of people.
bar fight on an alien planet.
Yeah, I love that.
So good.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the other sides of the episode. I mean, this episode is all right. I think it's kind of nice to have like it's like a breather episode because there's no like tension in this episode. There's no big villain to stop. There's nothing. It's literally just what are they doing on Christmas? Let's see. Like that's the episode.
Superman visits his parents with Jean.
Takes Jean because he feels bad. He doesn't want to leave him alone on Christmas. Although Batman, it sounds like, is alone on Christmas because he's
he didn't have a part in this, did he?
No, he literally was not in it. Maybe he did spend Christmas with like Alfred and Robin and stuff. I
don't remember Wonder Woman being in this either.
Oh wait, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, she was. I don't think she was. Yeah. Yeah, I guess Batman and Wonder Woman weren't. Yeah. But I mean, they just didn't have a role for them to play in it, I guess.
Right.
So I really like the Superman John part of the episode because it's really cool. First off, it's really just cool to see Clark as like just a normal dude, like see Superman as a normal dude and not Superman. Finally, like I'm sure you see that more in the Superman show, but like obviously in the Justice League, you don't get to see that very much. And like see just how much he loves Christmas, and he's still to this day trying to peek at his presents with his X-ray vision.
But lead foil.
That's a nice touch. Dang. They're like, oh yeah, we always used to light his presents with lead, so he couldn't peek at what the presents are.
You mean Santa did?
Yeah, you mean Santa did? Yeah. Yeah, and John has a nice little thing of like kind of learning to appreciate Christmas, I guess. That's right. He hears the thoughts of this girl in her house talking about like, oh, I know Santa's real. Like, I bet you those cookies I left for him will be gone. So he sneaks in the house and eats the cookies. It's like, wow. Very nice.
Parents noticing that the cookies are gone. Like, who was in our house? Who ate the cookies?
You're gonna freak them out. And then there's the Flash storyline, which was interesting, I guess.
It was cute.
Yeah. It's like nice. I guess a nice way to bring back the Ultra Humanite. So I guess his whole thing is he's just wants to bring culture to the world or something. That's his villain motivation. I don't really know. Like bring culture and refinement to the world.
I mean, he found him in a like an art museum that he was just complaining like, this is junk. This is just scrap metal. This isn't art. This isn't culture.
Yeah, exactly. Like destroying. Yeah, so that's kind of like his thing.
He's a hypocrite. No, not a hypocrite. He's a critic. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yes, but takes it to the extreme where he's going to blow up the thing that he's criticizing that he doesn't like. Right, yeah. Yeah, and like it's so weird, like his sort of attitude towards everything too, because like at the end of the episode, Flash is like is at the jail cell that he's being brought into, and he leaves the Christmas tree there for him. And when he leaves, he's just like, Flash is like leaving. He's like, the guards will see you out, like as if like talking like he owns the place. Like just the way he said that is like, it's almost like if you were at like a rich person's house and they're like, oh, the butler will see you out. It's like he said it in like that manner. Like, okay,
like, no, sir, you're in jail. You don't.
But like that's just his attitude around everything, Yeah.
I do just find it really cute though that Flash visits an orphanage to get the kids a present.
Yeah, that is really nice. I like that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about it.
I'm all good.
It's a nice little Christmas episode. And again, like I said, it was really good to have an episode to, first off, just give like a nice breather before the finale, but also to show us a little bit of Hawkgirl and Green Lantern actually being in a relationship together before the finale. So it's kind of nice to have that. But anyways, next we have the finale, which is a 3-parter titled Star-Crossed. And yeah, this is a big deal. Hawkgirl's a fucking spy. It has been this whole time. I remember when I first
engaged.
What's that? Oh yeah, and engaged. Yeah, exactly. Well, I remember when I first watched these episodes when I was younger. Like it was like shocking to me. I was like, what? Because like all these years I had watched season 1 so many times. I'm like, yeah, Hawkgirl, she's just this like, just another member of the Justice League, whatever. And when I found this out, I was like, oh
no.
But like, she's not bad though. Like, she's not like, because when she finds out that their real plans of like destroying the Earth, she's like, no.
Right. She thinks it's just a matter of helping the Earth, but no, it's about to get destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah. I'm trying to think like what else to say. You know what I do really think was fun? Was the scene where hold on. The scene where the scene where they first find out everybody's secret identities, when they're like, we need to travel, and Flash is like, I don't know if I'm ready to share my secret identity. And then he's like, then Batman just goes, he's just like, Wally West, Clark Kent, pulls his mask off, Bruce Wayne, let's go.
No time for this.
Which is interesting that Batman is ready to like reveal his secret identity, because he's definitely the type of character who wouldn't do it unless he's in an extreme circumstance.
Right.
And this is an extreme circumstance where it's required, kind of. And yeah, it is funny. It's because it's like Flash is just kind of like, oh, he knows my secret identity. Oh, but of course he does, because he's Batman.
I love how Batman's character is just, he knows he's Batman, and that's all the explanation you need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and like, he knows who Superman's identity is. You actually see that in the Superman show. But like when the characters first meet. But yeah, you don't know how he figured out Wally West, but probably figure it out pretty easily, honestly. Yes. So they all go in disguise. They have to sort of hide from the people. And Batman and Wonder Woman kiss,
Oh yeah.
The usual. Well, this is one thing I was like, they're trying to be all discreet and not nonchalant, you know, walking down the streets. And I'm like, okay, for most of them, sure. Well, some of them, sure. But I'm like, first off, I'm like, Wonder Woman. People know what Wonder Woman looks like. Like, she doesn't have a secret identity.
Right.
Green Lantern, Jon Stewart, I mean, I guess with his hat on, without any, you know, he had put a hat on and stuff, so that maybe helped a little bit. But also, like, people aren't like, hey, that's Bruce Wayne. That's famous billionaire Bruce Wayne. What?
Yeah.
What's he doing here? Like, no, just it's funny. I just thought that was funny. I don't know.
I mean, there is also the thing of like the entirety of Superman's secret identity is he puts on a pair of glasses.
That's true.
Which, honestly, I think people have analyzed that like to hell and back over all the years, and like there is something to it. Like when you don't expect to see a celebrity or see a superhero, you won't recognize them, and the glasses do a lot to help in that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and he changes like his personality too, so that kind of helps. Like his mannerisms, the way he walks, and stuff like that. Yeah. But which it's actually funny because he used his Clark Kent persona to help get the two on the train in that one scene. He's just like, hey, you know what? He's like, how are we going to help them? He's like, oh, I'll just pretend I'm trying to interview these guys. And then,
yeah, it's my job. I'll just do it.
We'll just do it.
I'll just be my secret identity. I'll just be the person that I am.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think these were pretty good episodes. I think it's a pretty strong finale. I mean, I don't know. It's just, and there was that final kind of confrontation between like Green Lantern and the one guy, her Hawkgirl's fiance, I guess. And then Hawkgirl shows up and there's that whole thing. Wonder Woman has a pretty badass moment of breaking them out of the prison.
Yeah.
That was like, I was like, oh, like I feel like the character of Wonder Woman really is learned a lot, because like I feel like in the beginning of the show she wouldn't have done that, I don't know, like she just didn't seem quite as like crafty, I guess, is that, I don't know what if that's the right word, you know what I mean, like
resourceful, or
yeah, like she, like in the beginning of the show she seemed much more naive, I guess,
or like direct in confrontation.
But and also like naive, like she just didn't, like she just seemed very, inexperienced, naive, right? And whereas now she's just kind of like, she's the one who's tricking people into helping her, like in a way to get them to break herself out of prison. It's the thing you would expect Batman or somebody to do. So I thought that was kind of cool.
I also noticed in this episode and a few others where they were captured in some regard or restrained. But I think in like the classic comic book stuff, Wonder Woman's weakness is being tied up. And she was just tied up by rope. Like it wasn't anything special, she was just tied up by rope. And I found it very interesting that they never mentioned that in this show. But
yeah, I mean, that is kind of a weird weakness.
It most certainly is. It makes me so uncomfortable. But it's there. That is the thing.
I think the original idea was definitely probably supposed to be some weird kink thing. I don't know. At least that's the kind of vibes it gives me. Which is kind of ironic because like one of her main weapons is a lasso that she uses to tie people up.
Yup.
So that's interesting. But yeah. So, and then I like the scene like in the Batcave. They all get to meet Alfred.
Oh yeah.
So it was nice to see. It's always nice to see Alfred.
Oh, I love how casual Alfred is about everything. Like the aliens bust in, and he's just like, "Oh, well, to business." Goes up to he puts up his dukes and everything, just fully ready to fight, even though he can't.
And then they go and they fight them and whatever, and then they leave and they walk upstairs, and he's just sweeping.
Mm-hmm.
He's just sweeping.
Better get to the job.
He's like, "Oh, watch out for the glass." Like, okay.
They leave, and there's just one of them left in the front yard, and he's just like, I told him not to leave trash in the yard. It's like, jeez, Alfred.
Yeah, no, I love it. It is great.
Have I ever told you about like one of my favorite little things from the comic books? I just saw this like little clip image of it online, where someone's like breaking into Wayne Manor, and Alfred just straight up grabs a shotgun and he's just like, "You might be counting on my master's I can't think of how to phrase it, but his clause against lethal force. But I assure you, I can talk, I swear it. I subscribe to no such niceties." It's like, Alfred is a badass.
No, he really is, yeah. Well, I think the character has like a history of being in like some sort of like British like Secret Service or something.
A veteran.
Yeah, like, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot. I don't know. What else do you have to say about it?
This whole relationship part between
that's right. Obviously,
Hawk Girl and her fiance in Green Lantern.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting because it's like she meets back up with him. Obviously, she's changed a lot, and it's kind of creates an issue. Yeah, I don't really know what I have to say about that whole thing, but it was definitely. I thought it was generally well handled. Like, it was very. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Right? It's certainly an interesting and heavy subject for a kid show to cover. I honestly do you think they did it well, though? At least for what they could do with it?
Yeah. Yeah, and then for them to end with the whole thing of her resigning. And interestingly enough, the show never says what the vote turned out to be.
Oh, yeah.
Because she comes in and they're like, all right, they voted on whether to keep her or not. And she goes, I resign either way. And she leaves. And Green Lantern comes out. He's like, you never figured out what the vote is. And she's like, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. And then she's like, leaves. She says, I love you. He says, I love you. And has tears, which that was so sad. But also it's like, you realize at the end, you're like, they never said like what the vote was,
Yeah. You never get to know like if they were gonna actually kick her out or not.
Yeah. Which is I thought was interesting. Yeah, and it just ends with that sad scene of her flying away and him standing there. I think. Did it end with that moment? Oh, it might have ended with that, or it might have ended with I don't remember exactly what moment it ended on. I just thought it was that, but maybe not.
And we finally got to see her face.
Oh, yeah, that was at the end of the episode where they first, got together. Yeah.
Oh, right.
A few episodes ago. Because he pulled her helmet off, and then they started making out. Yeah. Which is just so weird, finally seeing characters' faces that you've never seen. Same with, Flash. With him without his mask on, it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, because that's literally these episodes are actually the first time you ever see Flash without his mask on too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Wonder Woman's like, oh, red hair suits you, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I really do think this season has really improved upon what the first season had.
I would agree, yeah.
Like I was hearing that a lot, like, oh, this season is much better, and I was like, let's see what we think about it. But like, after seeing it, I think it's very clear. Like, there was a few episodes of the first season that I legitimately just didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
This season, I like every episode. My favorite of this season might be still the alternate universe one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was really good.
That's probably still my favorite, but still, like, the whole season, I think, generally is pretty strong.
Yeah, I think that would definitely still be my favorite, too, but I think a close second would be the time-traveling Superman one.
Oh, yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, that's up there, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it does the whole, Death of Superman thing, where it does the whole, like, let's show what would happen if Superman died, like how would people deal with it kind of thing. It literally does like that storyline, but like not in a different way. It's not like he was killed by Doomsday and there's no body left behind, but it does, it's essentially the same general type of story, right? Superman dies, how does everyone deal with it? Even Lex is sad about it,
Yeah, or at least pretends to be.
At least, well, yes, he is a politician now, so he's gotta.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, which that doesn't really go anywhere until Unlimited, Justice League Unlimited. So we'll have to do that. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about it.
Nah, I'm all good.
All right. So, anyways, I guess that's about it. So, thank you all for listening to this week's episode of WABAN. Next week, we are going to be talking about a DC movie. This time, not an animated one, but we're going to talk about The Joker, the live-action Joker movie that came out 2019, I believe it was. Yes, 2019. So. We'll talk about that. I've seen it once in theaters when it came out, but I haven't since. So, yeah, we're going to watch that, talk about it, see what we think. So, yeah, if you want to check that out, definitely stay tuned for next week, which will be on Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time, which is when you can expect every new episode of this podcast. And there's multiple different locations you can listen to it as well, including our YouTube channel, which is called WABAN. There should be a link in the description to that. We have the podcast there, and we also have some gaming videos we did with Portal 2. Eventually, we're going to get into more gaming videos once we find time to do that. But yeah, so definitely check that YouTube channel out. You can also listen to the podcast on multiple different audio platforms, including things like Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, stuff like that, and many others. And you can also check out my YouTube channel, which is called Nim TV. That's NIMTV. But yeah, anyways, that's about all for this week's episode of WABAN. Thank you all for listening. I've been Nim.
And I'm Cub.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.